From producer Jar Jar Abrams, classic director of quality films like the rebooted non-Star Trek Star Trek,
My name is
Khan.
The Force Awakens, and the rise of inflation comes another summer blockbuster with dinosaurs, so you know I had to check it out despite having no faith in Bad Robot as a creative studio. To be fair, this time around, David Robert Mitchells is the one behind the director's chair, and he also apparently wrote the whole script himself. J.J. Abrams, being the producer and head of Bad Robot, would technically have the last say. Remember when I said the only people in Hollywood who can make dinosaur movies were Spielberg and his friends? Funny that. I avoided most of the promo material going in because they fell into the same damn trap as Jurassic World and just blew so much of their load in the trailers. I bitched about this with Rebirth and I'll bitch about it here too. Why the hell do these studios feel so insecure and feel the need to overexpose their movie, especially when it involves dinosaurs? Jurassic World, or whatever it is now, needs to take a step back and reevaluate itself and realize that they need to go more horror and be more like Crichton's novels in order to survive. The End of Oak Street is a step in the right direction on this front. This movie is more violent than the Jurassic movies, which kind of surprised me, although the CGI in this movie is not that great, especially in the daytime shots. Sadly, this movie's dinosaurs are mainly shown in the daytime, which is very brave of you guys to do. Really challenging that special effects team, eh?
Alright, put the CGI slop in the bag. Put it in!
I joke, but I have definitely seen worse dinosaur CGI, so I'm not going to harp on this for too long. So before I spoil this movie, I should give my general thoughts. Fun dinosaur action and suspense, but weak character writing and major world building flaws, and the ending has a way darker implication despite the changes they made to try and make it less dark. It's well directed and shot. Mitchell certainly has a talent for suspense, and it shows in pretty much every scene involving the dinosaurs. I loved It Follows, a very good supernatural horror movie that if you haven't seen, I highly recommend, and his directing style from that meshes very well with the dinosaur genre. Anne Hathaway plays Denise Platt, mother of two, who is unhappy to be married to Greg, and is an inspiring amateur writer who doesn't want to tell her family she is writing a novel because it's actually a fantasy of the life she wants to live where she abandons her husband and children. You could say she has some issues. Ewan McGregor plays Greg Platt, pizza delivery driver who has actually been quote-unquote unemployed for months, which is another plot hole I'm confused by. So Greg hides the pizza delivery sign from Denise and lies to his son because she doesn't know he has the job. But then how hasn't the son accidentally blurted out that the dad's been delivering pizzas? Because he's also lying to the son about why he has to take the sign off the car. So Denise hasn't stumbled upon the sign in the garage over the months he's been doing this job? I'm confused. The more you think about the plot, the more your brain will hurt. So for a minute, I'm going to turn my brain off and talk about the dinosaurs. Who am I kidding? I can't turn my brain off. They have so many different dinosaur species in this movie, and I probably missed some. There were a few ancient reptiles I could not identify, like the prehistoric turtles just chilling on the road. What bothers me is, like, the dinosaurs like the Allosaurus, Camarasaurus, the Compies, and the Stegosaurus are living alongside the Tropeognathus and the Spinosaurus. Also, if the dinosaur that Greg first encounters is meant to be Coelophysis, then damn, we also have animals going back 201 million years. Shit, man, you got a Gargania in here from 250 million years ago. So this movie definitely threw the book out on properly showing an authentic look at a moment in the prehistoric past, which is a shame. Also, there is zero evidence of sauropods having filaments covering their bodies. Gigantic animals produce a lot of heat. That's why most of the giant animals in history covered in fur were found in colder climates. It just looks goofy to me. Not a great creative choice in my opinion. Doesn't help that you have the characters in the movie also pointing out how much hotter it has gotten since they've been transported back to the dinosaurs' time. The Allosaurus shouldn't have any filaments either, as we have an actual skin impression of the Allosaurus, and we know it wasn't covered in filaments. So while I personally did like the design of the Allosaurus in the movie, it is inaccurate just like the Camarasaurus. And don't get me started on the lack of lips. The kids in this movie were very forgettable, and their acting in particular left a lot to be desired. One's a closeted lesbian who wants to go to Cornell, and the other is a lame archer larper who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. Like I said, pretty surface level, cookie cutter, modern Hollywood slop child characters. Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor were good acting wise, but nothing amazing. Ewan didn't do a terrible job at hiding his accent, but it made his character come off a bit rigid in a lot of the scenes as a result. The characters were pretty one note for the most part, definitely not as dumb as Rebirth's characters, but most of the characters feel underdeveloped or just not really likable. The son has some funny lines earlier in the movie, but after that he becomes the screamer of the movie, which is really annoying. The characters are really non-entities in this movie, so honestly, let's just move right along to the setting. Thank you for setting this movie in 1982. I've been saying that if you're going to continue making Jurassic Park movies, just remake it and set it back in 1989 like in the novel, and then you could tell a bunch of stories set into the 90s. Play on that late 80s, early 90s nostalgia. Take advantage of the hampered technology to make the dinosaurs a threat. Endless possibilities, but I doubt they'll do it. They'll go 50 years into the future and do dino robot mutants, because apparently dinosaurs are too boring. Despite me not being a fan of the full CGI route they went in, I did enjoy the chase sequences for the most part. Building up the dinosaurs invading their neighborhood was done very well, and Mitchell took Spielberg's classic formula and used it very well, slowly building up tension and teasing the animals before showing them. I do have some issues, particularly in one area, which I will get to in a moment. I did like some of the aerial shots, but I would have preferred staying on the ground and keeping us grounded with the characters. I guess you were trying to make sure we knew what was going on, so I guess I never felt lost. Except when it came to the explanation of the entire story and also the ending of a certain chase sequence in particular. Even if you're going to build up to Greg sacrificing himself, which when he actually died, he wasn't sacrificing himself, the movie made Greg think the Allosaurus was dead, or knocked out at the very least. The sledgehammer can do some damage, but in the hands of a human against a full-grown Allosaurus? Okay, fine, let's say Greg does successfully stun the Allosaurus here, I'll give it to you. Very convenient that Greg did enough damage to stun the Allosaurus long enough for Greg to then run around the Allosaurus to console Denise, giving the Allosaurus the chance to sneak grab him, instead of Greg caving the Allosaurus' skull in while it's just laying there while Denise runs off the porch and regroups with the kids. Greg should have known that he didn't knock it out, let alone killed it. Why did he leave himself open to be eaten? If he wasn't going to immediately try and bash its skull in, then he should have stunned the Allo and then ran away again, since it would have most likely got back up and chased after him, giving Denise and the kids the chance to escape, which was already his plan before Denise decided to shoot it. I just found his death to be lame, and not only was it lame, you then undercut the lame death by bringing him back at the end. They couldn't even commit. If you're gonna kill the dad, have him die directly helping his family get back to their time period. Not some random first chase where you're finally introducing the main threat towards the end of the movie. Denise just stands there awkwardly with a just cringe sad face as we listen to the Allosaurus crunching on Greg's bones as it completely ignores her and the kids who just walk away really slowly. It wasn't sad. I was just dumbstruck by what I was witnessing. This was all compacted on top of the fact that the dumb death wasn't even committed to, so it also feels cheap as hell. The movie does drop some hints at what could have caused the event throughout the beginning, and then the family has a heavy-handed discussion about it later, which wasn't needed. Solar flares from the sun caused a wormhole to swap their neighborhood back 150 to 200 million years ago. When Denise makes it back to 1982 with her 2 kids and new adopted child and calls Greg 2.0 to bring her some pizza, the movie presents the reunion as a happy ending, but it opens a huge time travel problem. The Greg who survives isn't necessarily the same Greg, psychologically, who Denise lost. Greg 2 didn't experience what Greg 1 did, and there's an even bigger issue involving their new family member, Jeanette. The altered timeline potentially leaves 2 versions of her existing at the same time. The movie never resolves what happens when those duplicated timelines come together. Also, the implications at the end is that Denise, on top of ordering a pizza to draw Greg up on the hill, went on to call all of the other neighbors, including the next door neighbor who hates them, and somehow convinced all of them to leave their houses at 10:45 at night to come up to the same spot where they were all at 11:05 when the event is going to happen.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, don't make me laugh. I can buy her using Greg delivering pizzas as a way to get him away from the neighborhood. But yeah, the rest of those people are laughing in her face and hanging up the phone. Even if they all would immediately believe her, she's gonna have to sit there in that phone booth looking through the phone book, which would take too much time on its own. I 100% don't buy that at all.
You lose! Good day, sir!
Also, how did the dog Starbucks survive the fall from the Tropiognathus and know to jump into the bubble with the family to return back to their present? Oh yeah, and Denise just allowed the other versions of her and her kids to get sent back, and I'm assuming they were eaten by dinosaurs so she could keep their version of Greg for herself. Yeah. Not as bad as I was expecting for Bad Robot, but I still enjoyed Primitive War more than this. Both deal with crazy science fiction scenarios, but Primitive War didn't feel the need to over-explain its premise, only for the explanations they give to be completely undermined by the hanging threads they left unexplained at the end of the movie. The Soviets built the collider that caused the cosmic event to teleport dinosaurs to Vietnam, and once they destroyed the collider, the cosmic event ceased. And the movie clearly shows you the end results, and now there is just a massive amount of dinosaurs that have come through this collider together and are now loose in their present-day Vietnam. In the end of Oak Street, a random solar flare causes a rupture, but the sun has been around since before the Earth, so have these ruptures been happening before this movie? Have dinosaurs already been teleported via solar flare-induced wormholes before this point? Okay, I'm gonna stop now before I break my brain even more. That's all I have to say about this movie for now. As smaller filmmakers get their hands on the technology to bring dinosaurs to the big screen, Spielberg and his friends have more competition, and that's what needs to happen in order for them to try harder. They need competition. They need to see that dinosaurs can succeed without Spielberg or his money. If anything, his name being attached to a project nowadays, or that of any of his impersonators, is a net negative. It guarantees that the movie will have no balls. It's so funny because this movie shows how much potential Jurassic World Dominion had if it had went with the dinosaurs loose in our modern world premise. Of course, Universal didn't want to show this side of things in Dominion because then people would have to concede that the dinosaurs should be destroyed. You've got YouTubers like Ali Awada absolutely embarrassing Universal, and Luke Sparks, who did Primitive War, is not only embarking on Dinosaurs of the Wild West, but he's also doing Primitive War 2. Non-Spielberg influenced dinosaur movies are coming back, and I am here for it. I don't see myself making another review for a movie being released this year. I'll eventually get back to Rings of Power because Amazon has decided to commit to desecrating Tolkien's corpse for another 3 seasons, so unless something catches my eye, the next video on this channel should be in fact my Lost World retrospective.
This lost world inside